get it through. It's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to.
Me too. Before we get into your good work, I want to know this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing the world, changing the way that we all operate. How did you get through the pandemic era, and how has it changed the way that you work and live today?
For me, it was wonderful. I never worked from home. And since then, I've never stopped working from home.
Yeah.
So this is actually quality time. I was 70% of my life traveling. It's cut down to 40%. And then working from home for me is just a blessing.
So, talk to me a little bit about your work, what you do on a daily basis. And to do that, I'm going to put you at career day in a school, and they're 12, 13-year-old kids, and they just want to know what you do for a living. How do you make your day job make sense to them?
So I just pivoted a month ago. That's basically if you look at this thing is a month old, but is an outcome of my own learnings, my pivots, my roller coaster life, and then looking at my kids. And then I said, okay, hold a second, what's going on with AI? And AI is wiping out white collar jobs. Students, after university have a difficulty to entry level jobs are gone. So it's really a problem. And in that sense, when I looked at it, I have 5 kids. I said, hold a second, I need to do something. So what I do today, we're creating an AI native, agentic AI app, which help people to find their vocation and make it their profession. Yeah, that's basically, and this comes from early on, to understand what is your primary motivation, what makes life meaningful. That's between the age of 2 and 6 years. When you are basically there, something happens, you are now, brain is developed, you see something outside, and that gives you a spark where you want to do something against it. Normally it's unpleasant, but it doesn't have to be traumatic. It's just something which triggers in you, and that's your imprint, and you carry that your entire life. But normally, society doesn't cater to this. Education doesn't cater to this. It's kind of shut down. Only very few people have that very strongly. But I had this going forward. And at the age of 33, I had the success my parents wanted me to have. I was running a company, had a family and a home. And then I did a coaching session. I learned about my inner child, my inner spark, my identity. And that changed my life. And so I did a pivot. I went out of the golden handcuffs. I went to a roller coaster life. I actually figured out that I have been the absent subject of my own education. My education gives me the tools to make a living, not to live my life. And this is where you have a lot of people then later on having the midlife crisis because life's going on and you've been doing certain things which are all to society good, the success you're supposed to have. But then you say, this is not fulfilling me. I'm not self-realization. And it goes back to that imprint originally because we don't cater to it. And so what I do today, and I've been doing for many years, initially not professionally, but has pivoted over time, is to actually help people to figure out what that spark is, what that imprint is, and then cater it into the professional world so that you start dedicating yourself to your vocation, which I called you start vocating. So that's what I do today. And now I created the whole thing just digital. As I'm seeing this big change and the disruption coming in the labor market, specifically with AI. And I said, hold a second. This is something where I can continue double down. I can scale that. And funny enough, a week ago, the CEO of Palantir said there are 2 types of people who will survive, or let's say have success in the AI world. One is neurodivergent people, and the others are purpose-driven people. This is where you use technology to your sake. You're not following the trend, what an algorithm tells you. And that's what I'm really, really concerned about. So I said, okay, there's something I need to do. Again, I did this already before, but it's just all signals are clearly here stating if you don't know your vocation, you will have a hard time because accumulated knowledge is no longer an asset.
Yeah.
Years learning something is not because AI gives it to you. But you can, it has never been as easy, as fast, and as precise, and as cheap to create something as it's now in the AI world. And so that's where people are losing their jobs because not they're unemployed, they're unpositioned. And even learning, let's say you do law school, 5 years hammering and learning until you have a master's in law school, and then you don't find a job because AI does it much better than you would ever do in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is not to learn law. The question is what to do with it.
Yeah.
So this is all changing right now. So my sense, in an easy word, what I do in my professional life as I'm vocating is to inspire and to serve people for them to find their vocation and make it their profession.
So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream job?
So when I was 5, I was living in the middle part of Germany. We were moving to the Swiss border, and there's a very strong dialect. And basically, I didn't speak the dialect. Yeah, my father, doctor, my mom, a teacher. And then you were living in the village, and the boys coming from the farms are rough. And I was kind of you know, the academic guy,
Yeah.
even though I wasn't because of my parents. And so I was bullied and beaten. And at that time, I wasn't scared or afraid, but I asked myself, why do they do this to me? Why are they mean to me? What has happened to these guys that are so mean to me? And that's my imprint. And that is something which I stuck with me, where I wanted to contribute, or let's say I want to right the wrong. Yeah, that's the part. And so this is my imprint. But I wasn't aware of that for a long period of time. It really sparked when I had the pivot at the age of 33, and then I started to learn about myself. I would have loved to have that earlier, but that is the part. Basically, now you can, with that imprint, you can do many things once you know it. But it's not just opportunistically looking outside. You actually start catering to it, which is very exciting. And when you do something which is bigger than yourself, yeah, the motivation is very different because you're not ending up in a situation which I did like in 33 years. Again, I had a great job. I was leading a company. I had great colleagues. We were in healthcare. Everything was fine,
Yeah.
but it wasn't
Yeah.
because it wasn't my journey. But I just ended up being there.
So what did you learn from your parents or family or other friends along with the template of being bullied and trying to figure those? I mean, that was kind of the map. But what were the other things that you saw that contributed to your success in a business in a personal sense?
Yeah, then there's a question, what is success?
Yeah.
Your society and parents say, you need to have a job, you need to be successful. What does society's success say? Yeah, it's a fantasy. It's fame, fortune, and power.
Yeah.
And you believe that's success. As long as it's nourishing your ego, all things is good. But when it's over, you fall off the cliff. And you have that with sports people, you have this with artists, famous artists or musician or whatever. And when things are over, then they fall in a cliff because it doesn't help you to realize yourself. And you have people at their deathbed then saying, you know, even Steve Jobs, saying, of course, he was successful in on that side, but he was actually regretting not having lived and loved enough. Yeah, because it wasn't catering to his vocation. And so that's the part where, in a sense, what did I get from my parents in school? I was bullied. My parents put me in judo. So I stayed there for 15 years. I was in a national team in Germany. I was in the Bundesliga in judo, Germany. I went to a sports boarding school only to do this. Yeah, then I went to the military service and I hold a second at a break before going back, being prepared for Barcelona 92 for the Olympics. And I said, no, this is not a future. I don't see myself in the future. What afterwards? Yeah, I get a dojo and I become a judo teacher where teaching is not my vocation. So it's not good for me. And then I changed. I actually wanted to become a stand-up comedian. Yeah, so from that side, I was successful in sports. I got tough. I tactics. I learned a lot of skills, which for life is good, but not necessarily for me.
Yeah.
My intention was to become a stand-up comedian at the age of 18. And at the art school, everything was fine. I was music. And I love to make people laugh, to numb out pain, yeah, of the ordinary life. And I'm still a fan of watching, this today. But my father then said, Florian, there are many good artists out there, but not making a living. Maybe you want to study something normal first. You can still try. So I studied the normal and I stayed in the normal, leading me a path to success according to society. But I wasn't living my life.
So talk to me a little bit about who's been the inspirational force, who's been the hero in your life that's allowed you to find your true spirit and helping others to be able to vocate as well?
It is a journey with several people. Funny enough, I was in a corporate life. Yeah, I was running the subsidiary. I was vice president Latin America, always good. And then my boss said, maybe you want to do a coaching. You want to fine tune some skill sets. I said, okay, coaching is cool. Fine. So I did the coaching, not recognizing it was actually a psychotherapy. And that coach was a psychologist, actually made me aware of my inner child, which I didn't even know existed. I had two chairs talking to my adult Florian to the child Florian. And it was crazy. That all was new to me. And that was a portion where, thanks to that, my boss at the time, which I still in contact and appreciate very much, he sparked that at the coaching, and that was one of the triggers alongside. It took me years, but that was the point where I said, hold a second, there is more than just living life, and life goes on, and I have the success, and I have my family, and I have my home, and I have my job, maybe a better job, maybe I earn more. But that is, and so this is one of the people he didn't know, but he triggered for me to change my life.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now, anybody that's fascinating, and you could spend some time with them, who'd you love to meet and talk to?
Simon Sinek,
Okay. What would you want to know?
his story and the message of the why, you know, which goes back to the spark. I would love to know, what is his imprint? Where did it start when he was between 2 and 6 years old? And how was the journey? Because it's fascinating. And there's several people, in that same sense. So Simon Sinek is one, Joe Dispenza is another one. Yeah, Arthur Brooks is another one. Yeah, which are all, they don't know me, but they're for me being major teachers to actually go along and dare to be out of the comfort zone and dare to take my roller coaster life and learning over the years.
So let me ask you this about AI. I always I talk to more and more people about AI from an engineering standpoint, from a logistical standpoint, and there's these fears that people have about it. At the end of the day, how do you look at AI? Do you have a fear of it? Do you have a reverence for it? How much do you rely on it for daily things? How does AI work in your life?
It's a great question. So last year I did a management buyout of a company and it was in a bad shape. So I said, okay, let's automate. Let's take technology. We flipped the entire company. 60% of the people left. It was a consulting firm, impact investing consulting firm. And we mapped everything, all SOPs, standard products, cut the costs 5 times. Immediately went profitable, better product, more nuanced, complexity is much better managed, but it was brutal for the people, even including for me. And when that happened, that was last year, between May and June. Last year, I said, holy moly, if this goes everywhere now because it will just arrive, what does it mean? So that was the first part where I really got hands-on with AI, just as a tool automation. Yeah. Then you go further and you start using it really to implement and increase your productivity. So my mother, she's an historian. She says, we have these cycles of industrial revolutions where humanity has to understand what that means. So yes, I'm concerned about AI. There's, as I've just mentioned, people following and asking the machine what to do with their life. It's just bad. Second thing is, I see it boosts productivity to an exponential level of humanity. Third thing is, suddenly you don't have to be privileged anymore. You don't need a good education in a privileged area, having had wealthy parents, yeah, or a big loan to do, because you can do this instead of 5 years and 5 months. It doesn't cost you anything. You need energy and internet connection, and the rest you learn yourself. So it will actually have a lot of people coming with new stuff, new ideas, and new things coming out, which didn't have a chance before because the system was so divided. And also, if you go back 100 years, you had the Industrial Revolution, and some people really took off. And you had, the entrepreneurs, and then you had a lot of workers which were badly treated, and then it clashed. Yeah, then you had the Great Depression, and then you have a war. So things might happen the same way. Yeah, because it's just for humanity to get to understanding. So my message is don't fight what is happening anyway. Embrace it. Be smart to use it the best way for your sake. This is just my message because you have to adapt. So linear careers are over. Yeah, entry level job in a company, good old time, start in a Ford company and you retire in the Ford company, it's gone. So you need to iterate. You need to try and test. Yeah, you have to navigate things because we don't know how things will look in 5 years or in 10 years because this goes so fast and so exponential. So the message is clearly that, yes, I'm afraid. I'm afraid on the warfare, I'm afraid on being controlled, big brother's watching you, you know, and also mass manipulated. But on the other side is, hey, you can create, you can set up a business, you can innovate. Yeah, it's really a lot. So you want to take this AI for good, for the sake of humanity, not against. So my hope is that people actually understand how powerful my vocation now can be. And I can actually create and do something, which in our times, when we were, educated, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did what you have to do. We were parents told us also, guys, you need life is tough and you need to make earning and you have to be successful. That was a path, but now it's all changing. And that change has also something good that we can actually really have a great idea and out of nothing create something powerful.
So, what is the energy for you every day to help people find their passion, to turn it into a career, and to also take care of your own soul and your own vocation? What is that for you every day?
I love that question, Joe. So when you vocate and you're in your zone, what you do is greater than you. And life will tough and life throws stuff at you. Yeah, financially, health wise, something. Again, always something is happening. But it's very different if it's your path and you decide it's a challenge, which is actually healthy, the stress. Adrenaline goes up, endorphins go up because you want to do it. Like you're doing sports. But if you do straight sport for the sake of fame, fortune, and power, it will not help you. But it's because you really want to do it and it doesn't matter what others say, then you're in the zone. So that is the power this gives me. And if I go back to the age of 5, what happened to me is thereafter, I was trying initially to please people by making them laugh instead of angry and beating up people. And that doesn't help.
Yeah.
And then I learned actually, there's actually a way to have create an awareness of how to go to how you find your imprint. Yeah, and actually it's a powerful tool because intrinsic motivation goes up. And if you put it in an organization, suddenly this contagion, the whole organization goes up. So that's something I've also worked on, yeah, in a sense that you can transmit that into an organization and then net promoter score goes up, empathy goes up, egos go down because it's really just contagion. So this is in my life, I want to transmit that spark to as many people as I can for the sake of themselves, but also for me. Because at the end, as a small child, I suffered something which I hope others won't. Because if more and more people use their identity for living, that actually mitigates or diminishes these factors for other people.
So, speaking of that little kid version of you, let's say you had a dream tonight. You ran into a 18-year-old version of you, and you walked into a room and there was a film projector and you hit play and it was a 60-second highlight reel of the life you've lived. Would that young version of you believe that it turned out this way, that your life is this?
So, yes, this is what I do all the time.
Yeah.
I speak to people, usually midlife crisis, accomplished people, then saying, what next? Because that's, my age and things and in peer groups and the network I have globally. But then it's the young people. So I've been doing lectures at universities for MBA students. And these MBA students, one was at Oxford University, and the student says, Florian, I've studied so hard to learn financial modeling, and AI takes my job away. I'm doomed. I said, no, hold a second, let's work on your vocation. We figured that vocation out, said, okay, now let's take your vocation and take your superpower, your skill set, all you learn because you're good in finance, in financial modeling. And then you go into the industry, in the sector. And once the young person understood this, spark in the eyes and doubling down, because the engine now becomes the vocation, still in the field, which he worked so hard on, to have a skill set. And that's what if this is the conversation I have. 18 and 28. That is the spark. And also the app we're developing right now to digitalize this, to have an agentic AI tool doing that is exactly also for 18 to 28 in a gamified way, in a very agentic way, to help them to decide for them what they want to do and then make sure they get the tools to do it in their life.
So, of everything that you've done, overcome, accomplished, and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
That I dared to leave my golden handcuffs despite having a family, despite having a mortgage, despite having that, to figure out what I need in life. Because I wouldn't do what I do today if I would not have said, oh, okay, I'll do this. And I did this in March 2008, financial crisis. 1 year later, I lost my money in a Madoff scheme. Yeah, I sold the house, did everything, wham! And then you're naked. Yeah. But all of that, going out of comfort zone, I don't regret anything. I wouldn't do what I do today and live the life I live today. And I'm not talking financial. I'm not talking from a recognition. I'm talking from doing what I do today is so rewarding, even a conversation with you. So life is good. But that was the moment, and I had the guts to do it. I went out of my comfort zone, not really knowing. And this is where I'm really proud of myself.
All right, Florian, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone in different bubbles in your life, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm someone who has to manage its fear constantly, day by day. But once the fear is managed well, the gratitude of what I'm doing is so strong. Yeah. So that's why I'm just saying I am here to instill in people in some way, not that brutally and not have a roller coaster life and do it much earlier. Yeah. But being able to live a life in a zone by being vocating, by being dedicated to your vocation professionally.
So if anybody wants to pick up the books, they want to get the app, they want to hire you, they have questions, any of the good business to begin vocating, how do they do it?
So my site is called On-Vocation, and you find my books there, and you find some talks there, and you can also reach out to me on-vocation.com. And then the other is now the app. Yeah, you can sign on there if you want to test the app. We have been 4 weeks, we have it ready for people to play around with and really co-create it with us. Yeah, or you go to vocating.ai. That is now the new startup where we're working on, and to work on that tool and be part of the story.
What a great story. Absolutely great story. Florian, so great to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out. Best of luck with everything. I love it. It's so admirable. I dig it.
Thank you for having me, Joe, and thank you for sometimes challenging questions, but this is where I learn from.
Absolutely.